How does Michigan decide child custody during a divorce? Well, hopefully, if each parent is a fit parent, ready, willing, and able to be there and engage in the proper decision-making process in the best interest of their children, the parents can agree to a proper custodial relationship and parenting time relationship. When they cannot agree, when they're just not getting along and they're unable to put their differences aside for the sake of their children, well, the court will decide for them. They could refer them to the friend of the court for what's known as a custody and parenting time investigation. This is a process that could be very in-depth. Sometimes it could even feel disparaging and demeaning for a person. At the end, the friend of the court will write a recommendation where they go through these best interest factors and make a decision on, it's almost like reading who the better parent is. I really prefer my clients to stay out of that environment, but sometimes it's just unavoidable and you have no choice but to prepare them the best you can prepare them. The difference between legal custody and physical custody is that physical custody is a term that was created really through practice, whereas legal custody is codified in the Michigan statutory laws. So what legal custody is referring to is truly what custody is. It's decision-making. Important decision-making young children cannot make on their own and cannot do so under the law. Physical custody is really describing the parenting time relationship, physically where the children are at any point in time. I actually believe the parenting time order encapsulates physical custody, if you think about it. How is child support calculated in Michigan? It is very straightforward. So Michigan has something called the Michigan Child Support Guidelines, and there is a literal mathematical formula where you take the overnights of the parties that each party is exercising with the minor children, you take the income of the parties, you take their healthcare expenses. There are a few other things. As a matter of fact, there's a Michigan Public Child Support Calculator I urge all my clients to check out, even before they file a case. It will walk you through exactly what the Michigan Friends of the Court do when they calculate child support. What happens from the mathematical formula? A number gets spit out. That number is a recommendation, and that recommendation will become a child support order if neither parent objects to that order in a 21-day time frame. Then you have a child support order, and child support is paid on a month-by-month basis in the state of Michigan. And of course, it can be modifiable as well. How does Michigan determine the best interest of a child in custody cases? Again, very straightforward, very logical, very reasonable through the 12 best interest factors. They are so common. You're going to be hard-pressed to find lawyers who are just going to recite the MCL number because we all refer to them as the best interest factors. Any parent who has children or any child who's not an adult who came out of divorce will read those best interest factors and they will see them as common sense. That's exactly what they are. But that's what the courts analyze. And they analyze the 12 best interest factors and they'll weigh the facts surrounding each parent's parenting duties and abilities. And the friend of the court will write a recommendation and they'll decide each of those 12 factors. It's not a fun experience for parents to go through. It can be almost disparaging at times. You know, have to answer to a stranger who tucks their children in at night, who reads them bedtime stories, who drives them to school. But that's how it's done. It's done through the 12 best interest factors. Parents' income affects child support in Michigan very directly. The income is one of the main variables that gets plugged into the Michigan child support formula. The formula takes other factors, other variables, such as healthcare expenses, which parent is paying the healthcare. Income could either decrease or it could increase as well. This could give rise to child support modifications. Important thing to remember, when children are under the age of 18 years old in the state of Michigan, a child support order is always modifiable, but you have got to show a proper change in circumstances. Can child custody be modified after a divorce in Michigan? Yes, it can, absolutely. But I will caution you, it is one of the hardest things to do under the law. Another important thing is whatever you agree to in your divorce or in your custody case before it's finalized, please make sure it's something you could live with. Because to answer your question, yes, it could be modified, but just to let you know, it is a very difficult thing to do. If a parent refuses to follow the child custody order, a few things could happen. One is the non-offending spouse's attorney could file a motion and ask for a parenting time violation. In the county where my partner and I practice, Macomb County, there are forms individuals could fill out without the need for an attorney too, just to put the front of the court on notice that parenting time was withheld or there was a parenting time violation of some sort. But when the violations are bad enough, when they are even alienating a little child from his or her mother or father, that's when a motion is absolutely necessary. That's when you have to get in front of the judge. The offending parent needs to understand that the little child, their son or daughter, has just as much of a right to the other parent as that child does to themselves. Parenting time is determined, hopefully, by agreement of the parties, and that's the answer that you're probably going to see mostly in Michigan divorces. But when parties are so contentious and they can't agree, you could wind up in an investigation. They'll go through the parenting time factors. They'll go through the 12 best interest custody factors. You'll have to appear before front of the court with your attorney. You'll have to answer all these very prying questions, very inquisitive questions that could feel disparaging, can feel like you're under a microscope just for being a parent. But eventually, the friend of the court will write a recommendation. You and your attorney will either agree with that recommendation and agree for it to become a court order or not. You could file an objection, and then you have to duke it out in front of the judge.